Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and joining me, my host companion, Sejan Sarowick. Big round of applause for Sejan. How you doing, Sejan?
I'm doing good. I'm sitting here on the ABC Utah Channel 4 for I guess it would be the full call sign for them. I don't know what it is.
Utah
But
Channel 4.
um, just staring at their website now after having finished an episode that Devin asked me to watch earlier of a show. But yeah, I was able to find out that the local ABC affiliate just hosts a bunch of their stuff just up on their own website. But it seems to be in conjunction with Hulu because like there's like Hulu branding all over the page. Like there's like an ad for Hulu on the top and like an ad for Hulu before it starts. But it's just through the ABC site. I personally don't have Hulu, right? Like I think we've talked about this
Yeah,
before.
we've
It's one
mentioned
the
that a couple of
first ones
times,
that
yes.
I dropped. Yeah. But I was allowed or able to watch. Now there were commercials, but they were a minute long. It was once every time, and it was only like five throughout a 45-minute episode. So like pretty standard for what I remember from TV. Not like the egregious shit that you see when you watch like the free TVs on like Samsung or Vizio, where like it's a commercial every 5 minutes and it's the same commercial every time.
Yeah,
But
a
anyway,
lot of the local
so
stuff does that because why should they miss out on the revenue that can be generated by shows that they also kind of license out to do over-the-air broadcasting on? It's clever. Just because I'm an asshole, ABC for Utah is KTVX TV, an ABC affiliate. And then weirdly, this is the weirder part about this. You're welcome, Utah ABC4. In Utah, the CW is the one that's paired up with ABC as opposed to like CBS, which it is over in the East. Because Utah CW 30, KUCW TV, is also all over this website. Congratulations, ABC4. The Say Report just got you at least one extra click because I went to your weird website. This makes me sad for. We were just joking about the Rocky Mountains. Back when I worked on the cruise ship, so 2010, I guess this is a mission that I'm putting out to the world, at Say Report Nation. There was a A-Capella competition, which is insane when you think about the fact that there was an A-Capella competition on a local like morning news program 2 years before Pitch Perfect. I mean, Pitch Perfect was definitely the culmination of the a cappella like extravaganza
well,
that we went through, but
when did Pentatonics win? What was it that they won? Was it America's Got Talent or something like that? Because like that was like the apex of that moment, right? It was like the Pentatonics
yeah,
the
Apex is
five
wrong because it was like the end point was Pitch Perfect. Because after that movie came along, I don't think we really heard as much about a cappella. Their years active are 2011 to present, so this was also pre-Pentatonics that I watched this weird video.
Like, that was for me. That seemed to be like the highest point for a cappella was when a group that an a cappella group won one of the big shows and became like fucking like national success like as an a cappella group. Like that is so weird that we just for a hot second. It's kind of like in the 90s when we all decided that like swing was back for a moment.
Yeah, that was not a gym unit. I'm sorry. Swinging and gym was not gym. Okay, but here's the thing. Pentatonics, what they won was an a cappella singing contest called the Sing-Off. They won the third season of that. That started in 2009, ran till 2014. So it's not like they like broke through and won on something like America's Got Talent, or I mean, I guess really it would be impossible to win on something like American Idol. But X Factor, was that the name of the Fox answer to America's Got Talent?
Right. I don't know, man. That was more your speed than mine ever was with the competition shows.
I don't really watch these. They're in the house because I live with people who watch them. So that's how I get exposed to them. But yeah, so it was a local a cappella contest on the Denver Fox affiliate morning show. And one of the groups did Dynamite, and I shit you not, it is the greatest a cappella performance I have ever seen. and I cannot find it. I used to have a video of it saved, and then like just through moving computers and things, I've lost it, and it makes me super sad because I'm not kidding when I say the performance of Dynamite by this friggin' Fox for this Denver high school a-cappella group that was on the Fox affiliate was one of the greatest things I've ever witnessed ever in terms of a cappella performances. I love us. I don't know how we got here. I'm a little.
I don't know.
Lost.
We
were talking about how, local affiliates. We were talking about how your local affiliate.
Right, and like this new little kind of niche I have found in the streaming wars, where like there seems to be this little area of the internet where like I'm accessing this content, and it felt like watching Hulu back in like college, right? Like back when it first came out, and it was just a bunch of anime.
So
that idea that I could just go to a website and just type in a show I wanted to watch and watch an episode, and it wasn't like a shady website. This was a legitimate website as far as anybody could tell. There was ads on it, right? It felt like that again. It was very weird, very very surreal this morning.
So the questions that I have about that, streams. All right, I'm still on their website. You know what? I'm doing it. I'm putting it up in the Discord. You can go and you can view this as well. Around Rhode Island area, you have to have like a cable subscription. And I imagine that that's not the case anymore. But for all of those, if you want to watch a stream, you like log in and prove that you're a Cox customer or things like that. It's just that they're getting the direct revenue, but you're proving that you kind of like how licenses work in the UK, where you have to have a TV license, even though all their TV is free. It's a whole messed up thing. Watching TV over there was fun. But yeah, so I'm first of all, I am the most hydrated I've ever been for this show. And by that, I mean, I have 3 drinks next to me. Sejin, would you like to take a stab at the 3 drinks I have here? I promise it's no Mountain Chevets or anything like that. They're semi-normal beverages.
One of them has got to be a cream soda.
I don't have a cream soda. I am a failure because you know how much I love the cream. This is the reason you guessed it. I don't have a cream soda.
Okay, then it means we went in another direction, and not drinks we wanted to have next to us, but rather drinks we felt we needed to have next to us. Devon, do you have a Prime?
I do not have a Prime. I have only drank 1 Prime in my life, and I have another Prime primed for when we eventually do an episode for Avatar. Not the James Cameron Avatar, not the M. Night Shyamalan Avatar, or the animated Avatar. James Cameron's Blue People Avatar. I have a Blue Prime primed. That like I can only imagine it is fermenting in the refrigerator at this point, because I have owned it for like 5 years.
Well, at least it's not like one of the ones that came in the Mr. Beast ones that had mold all over it.
Well, those were foods, right? He showed up in my YouTube feed. Stupid.
Did you not know that Prime is involved in all of that?
Oh yeah, the Mr. Beast Feastables definitely. The Prime is the drink. Yeah, I've watched all that stuff. That's an incredible. We're not giving Mr. Beast any more time on this channel, on this show. Not now. Not until he does something like really noteworthy to talk about. All right, so you've taken 2 guesses. If you could get one of the 3 drinks in the next guess, I'll declare you the winner of Guess What Devon's Drinking.
Is one of them that Pepsi Cherry Vanilla?
I fucking wish. I can't find it anywhere. I really want it. A friend of mine, Joe from the SNES podcast and the Radical Retro Roundup, he found it. But I'm not going. Here's the friggin' problem with living in Rhode Island and knowing that I can get soda in Connecticut or Massachusetts. If I get soda in Connecticut or Massachusetts, I have to pay 5 cents. Now that's fine if I'm buying like a 2-liter bottle or if I'm buying like a 20-ounce bottle. But a lot of the times these flavors, you can only find them in cans. So that's 60 additional cents that I am spending. Now I could get that 60 cents back, but that seems like a real hassle to me.
What is the name of the so like it's something in like Cheerwine or something like that. What is the name of that local bittery soda that's in like the Cleveland area? It's like sand cola or like sand beer.
I don't know that.
Sand bitter.
Sand bitter? I've never heard of sand bitter. All I could think of was Moxie. I do not have sand bitter. Non-alcoholic aperitif. Yeah,
So Sand Bitter is like a ginger beer. It's not really meant to be drank on its own. It's more meant to be added to other things, but people do drink it on its own, much like ginger beer has kind of blown up over the years. Like so it is kind of this thing that like people who don't drink will try Sand Bitter because they get the association that and then they're like, oh, people drink this shit. And it's like, well, no, you really are supposed to put booze in it.
Right. It's not like Moxie where like, no, you buy a can of it on a dare, you drink it, you throw up literally every food you've ever eaten in your life. It's sort of like a Pensieve, but in soda form, and you vomit up everything you've ever eaten in your life, and you relive your life, and you're like, man, drinking Moxie was a fucking mistake. Because what the flavor of Moxie, it's gentian root extract. Like it is, it's bad. It was a patent medicine called Moxie Nerve Food in the beginning of its life from Lowell, Massachusetts, and I do not recommend it.
There's a path to why that then becomes one of the key ingredients in a lot of like energy drinks, right?
Yeah,
and things like that.
Yes,
is because like it does wake your body up. It does do that, but problem with that shit is the same thing with caffeine. I think if I remember correctly, is that like it gives you a hit, but then like you crash hard at the end of it.
Yeah, so it's a thing that happens. Okay, so the 3 drinks I have, honestly, water. I have a bottle of water. That was the easiest. I thought that was a gimme. That was the T-ball of guesses you could have made.
Not with you.
That's a point. He makes a point. Coca-Cola. I got some Coca-Cola. Good old classic Coke. Not classic Coke. There's no cocaine in it. And then I got some pink champagne on ice. Because why the fuck not?
Okay.
Start your day off right with pink champagne on ice.
You didn't have a drink on you.
Well, you know what? We're going to get fancy. Since you already brought up that I asked you to watch something, I had asked Sejin to watch the 9th episode of the series High Potential. High Potential is a police procedural in the wake of like Monk or Psych or The Mentalist, starring Caitlin Olsen, best known from The Drew Carey Show, Season 9. No, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. She's married to Rob McElhaney, and she plays someone with high intellectual potential. The show itself is based on a French police procedural that is the same thing. And, fun fact, High Intellectual Potential, the French version, was actually just put up on Hulu this past month. So if you're interested in comparing, it's out there and it's able to be done. But the reason I asked Sejin to watch this episode was episode 9, called The Rams. And Sejin, before I tell the audience why I asked you to watch this, I don't know why this turned into the Sejin has to guess everything episode of the show, and I promise that's not going to be it. But I'd like to have you venture a guess as to why I asked you to watch this particular episode of television.
You know, I had that same thought as I was watching the show. I was like, I mean, to be clear, enjoyed myself. The only episode of the show I have ever seen. Did not understand the concept at all. I was a little disappointed to find out that it was not High Potential, as in like a joke about weed. Really was just waiting for those great 420 jokes to come rolling in at some point, and they never did.
Next week,
also,
don't worry.
There's all sorts of things that I like discovered about this show, like as I was watching my very first episode. Like first of all, you say that it's in the same vein as something like a Monk or a Psych, or even The Mentalist. Mentalist is probably the closest I would put it to, in the regard that it's not as funny as I thought it was going to be. Not that it was trying to be funny and failing. It wasn't even trying to be funny. It was a very straightforward police procedural in a lot of spaces, until it suddenly wasn't. And then it all came full circle when I realized that there was an executive producer who also happened to be the writer of this particular episode, Rob Thomas. And for those who don't know,
he was in Matchbox 20.
Well, you know what? Could be. I've never seen the two of them in the same room at the same time.
It's a good point. No, I'm just kidding.
But no, the writer and creator of Veronica Mars, famously. Right?
Oh, okay.
That was like. With Drew Goddard also, I should say, is also the big name that gets attached to it, which I'm glad to see that he was able to get away from the whole Whedon-verse of it all and actually just establish himself as like able to do this sort of thing, which he did long before this, but just pointing out that like anybody that doesn't know that name, that's where I would have kind of pulled him from, was that he was a big name in in the Buffyverse. But anyway, so yeah, so this whole thing kind of came full circle when I was like, oh, all right, this is not like a straightforward comedy. It's light in the ways in which it handles the dramatic side of the whole cop drama of it all. But it is still pretty hardcore. Like no, we're going to do things quote unquote by the book, within universe, right? There's always rules that you're just like, well, in the real world that wouldn't happen, right? But within the universe of the show, they are pretty serious about like following procedure, making sure that they get the right kind of information or the right kind of evidence, talking about how things are now inadmissible because of the ways in which she grabbed them and stuff like that. Like there's some really good stuff going on to give some real like verisimilitude to the fucking to the world, right? Which is not something that you necessarily see in like Psych. There's just some silly shit that just happens in Psych sometimes that you're just like, well, that's just wonderful magic. And the humor is always more forward than the actual plot of the show, right? So all of this, right? And I'm watching this and I'm wondering, but why the hell did Devin want me to watch this? Until Steve Guttenberg showed up. That was about the moment where I was like, this has to be it. And if this isn't it, this is the only reason I'm in it now.
I mean, the Steve Guttenberg of it all was definitely a contributing factor, especially something that happened later in the episode with his character. The reason why I asked you, and first of all, pausing for Siegen identification here, this is why I love that I do this show with Siegen, because he really does fill in the gaps with the things that I'm bringing. I will come up with an insane theory like what I'm about to present to you, the audience, but Siegen will have already collected information that will either disprove or actually give strength to said theory, and he's done that immaculately today with the fact that, like, the creator of this show was also the writer of this episode. Because Siegen, this episode, which I have watched 3 times, 1 times cognizantly, like sitting down, not doing anything else, watching the show, and then in the room while the other people who I started it with, who fell asleep, rewatched the episode, took them 2 times to get through it. After the first watch, I was pretty certain of this theory, but after 2 more watches, it now feels like exactly what happened. I think that this was written by AI. I think this might be the first television program that was written by AI. Because, and it all really comes down to, first of all, some of the shit that happens in this, I know that police procedurals, by their very nature, are sort of by some sort of book. There's very formulaic stuff that happens in it. But the big things in this, the biggest moment where I'm like, what the fuck was this written by AI, was how they found the owner of the stolen car. Like, he has, it was a rental car from a corporation called Autofile LLC. And the second Batwoman, Javicia Leslie, also from God Friended Me, we've talked about Javicia before on this show is all I'm saying, is looking at the website and goes, oh, I know who owns the car. Autofile, Autofill E, Philip Echo. Now, Siegen, I'm at a computer. You're at a computer. I think autofile's a word, right? Isn't it someone who loves freaking automobiles? Yup, it's in the dictionary. So, him calling his company Autofile LLC, anybody who loves cars could name their car that. There wasn't like a period there to indicate that it was names or anything like that. It was the craziest way to link that stolen car to Steve Guttenberg's character, Philip Echo, especially when the first time we see his house, it is decked out in all British decor. Like, they showed that first time, I'm like, okay, so the car belonged to him. But then later on, they're like, how can we indicate this to the audience? Oh, I know. Let's pull out the NCIS 2 people typing on a keyboard is faster method and have Autofile LLC stand for Autofill E. That was crazy.
I think it was more. It doesn't offend me as much as it offends you that that was a reveal, right? Like the idea that the company is named Autofile, which is already a word, but it also happens to affiliate. That's good branding to me. That's just like that's not weird or surprising or out of the realm of believability. I think what I would rather have seen and where it got a little weird for me is she just makes this assumption, and that's I think what you're getting at, right? Is this leap, this jump to conclusion that she makes. If they had all they would have had to do is have her go to the like about us page or history page or even employee page or something and have her show that she sees that it's owned by this guy. Like I don't know why she needed to. Well, you know what it is. I noticed this, and again, I don't. This is the only episode of the show that I've watched, but there's a couple of things that like stood out to me as like a rotating thing that like. If I were writing this show, this is the kind of stuff that I would be that would show up in all of my episodes. Everybody is trying to outsmart her, and I don't mean outsmart her in terms of trick her, but are trying to like outdo her at her own mentalist game. Every cop got a moment in this episode to do the thing that she does and then like look at her like, see, I get to do that too, or like I could do that too. It was actually really interesting the first time it happened because I was like, oh, cool, I see why they're partners, because it was her partner there in the episode that pulls out this move. And I was like, okay, I see why they're partners, is because it's not that she's so good at this nobody can do her job. It's just that she's as good at this as the guy already doing the job. So why not bring her in? It actually was this really nice kind of moment to be like, all right, she's not like this weird special person in the world so much as she is just naturally good versus trained. That's the only real difference, which is a little bit different than like the mentalist or psych, especially because in psych, I mean, he's straight up pretending to be
Have psychic
psychic.
powers
But
in
in the
order to get
mentalist,
people to listen to him.
right, right. But in the mentalist, there is definitely like this move to always make him the like omnipresent god in the room, right? For the few episodes of that show that I've ever seen. This really kind of wasn't that. But every cop got this moment, and that felt like that was hers, was this idea that she got to do this whole like, oh, I can put two and two together too, which I appreciate, but like all they needed to do was just have her see a little bit more information to help her get there, and I think it would have been a million more times believable. It's the fact that she is just looking at this like name on her screen, almost as if it's made in like fucking Microsoft Word and just put there in front of her, and she's like, and she's I don't even know what she's really looking for or looking at. Like I couldn't
looking at a
figure out
website.
what she was doing until she says what she's doing, and you're like, oh shit.
Like, oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, the nice thing, that scene that you're talking about in the beginning where Karadak is able to fill in a gap that she does not have the information for, that to me, as somebody who's watched every episode, well, I haven't watched the 10th episode. I've watched the first 9. The 10th one is this past week, and I plan on watching it later today. But it was this moment where, like, what really works about these two is the fact that they complement each other. Like he's really kind of fastidious and by the book, and her like out there, like it's like a buddy cop thing, but they didn't make her a different cop. They made her the former janitor who totally Goodwill Huntinged herself onto the squad by like looking at their murder board and solving the mystery in the first episode. And then there's like, you should be a consultant. And the only reason that she's so smart is because she doesn't sleep. Like, the high potential mind means my mind is always going. So she watches a lot of documentaries. That's how they explained away her powers in the first episode. So, yeah, regardless of that. But then the second thing, so that really kind of opened my eyes like to, oh, that seems like how a computer would represent a scene in a police procedural. That, like, aha moment, but, like, without any of the humanity to make it feel, like, genuine. But then,
I mean, I have to say that the first show that we are going to see AI written episodes of is going to be a procedural.
Oh,
right?
of course, there's no way.
Like we saw the silly experiment with Seinfeld, which I would argue is like basically doing a procedural in sitcom, right? But that idea that like it's going to be a cop drama is going to be the first thing that we see that is going to be completely written by AI and it like openly like saying that to the public.
Yeah. I mean, there's also that South Park where they were very upfront about the fact that we had Chat GPT write the finale of this episode.
Right.
And that was for...
Right, that's the satirical, like, for the bit moment. This is going to be a sincere, like, we believe this still produces a product you want to enjoy attempt at AI, and it's going to be like a Law and Order spinoff or some shit.
And the director
Law and Order AI would actually
be
it, exactly, right?
Yeah. But the fact that it's the director of the episode who's credited as the writer, like, it's kind of that, like, oh, so he saw whatever the AI did and then he modified it a little bit. But then later on, the thing that did it, and actually, again, filling in the gaps, Sejin is the spackle of our friendship, and I end the show, and I appreciate that. And I'd like to think I also fill in gaps for you, Sejin. If I don't say it on air, break my heart off air after the show has concluded. But... the thing at the end of this episode with the whole tiddlywinks of it all, where she's like, why would he say tiddlywinks? Why would he say tiddlywinks? Now that you bring up that all the cops have this moment to prove that they're smarter than Morgan, like, that feels a little more genuine to me, because Karadak was basically blowing the victim the whole episode. The dude was dick riding, and it was kind of gross. So the fact that, like, she bring up tiddlywinks to him, and he's not like, oh yeah, he says that whenever it's wasting time, right? And that wasn't the solution to it, felt a little strange. That the solution to tiddlywinks had to come from Morgan. And again, where that reads and fills into my AI theory is the fact that the AI knows that at the end of the day, Morgan has to be the one to figure stuff out. Like, it just felt so weird. Because I think about, like, Red Sox announcers or, like, not Kalashar, what is his name? Chris Collins, or even, like, Tom Brady. Like, I don't watch as much sports as, like, my father, but I watch enough to know their mannerisms and, like, their cute little catchphrases. So the fact that it's not like she kept tiddlywinks to herself. Detective Adam Karadak was fully aware that his last words on the phone were tiddlywinks. And the fact that him, who's like, oh, my dad got to meet him this one time, and all this other, like, fanboy bullshit that was, as somebody who's watched the show, a little bit out of character for that particular character. And he was the one who's like, oh yeah, tiddlywinks. He says that whenever he feels like they're wasting time. Like,
so I'll go you one step further with that. Why didn't the live-in, not a partner know this, when we are not only led to believe that she was extremely close with him, but on top of that, Morgan's realization that that's what he always says when he talks about wasting time, and then this character's revelation that he referred to her boyfriend as a waste of time all of the time. Therefore, when he said that as his last word, he was actually talking about the boyfriend. Why is it not that extra step further of that's what he nicknamed the boyfriend, because that's what he always referred to as a waste of time? How is it that Morgan is able to figure out in his broadcasting that just by watching video after video after video comes to this realization that this is what when he says tiddlywinks, he means this, and this other character who he has been talking about this exact subject matter with for months, as we're led to believe, did not once hear him use that word to refer to that. Right? Like, it's this weird, because I kept waiting for that to happen in the moment, was for her to finally admit, because we do find out that she has been hiding stuff. So her not saying it early on is fine, but when they finally reveal she's been hiding stuff and she admits everything, how is one of those things not, that is the nickname he gave my boyfriend?
Yeah. And also, or even the fact that, like, so Karadak's a fan, but she has that whole thing before she's going to, like, reveal the truth. Like, the first time they meet her, where she says, I don't really like baseball, but I loved hearing him tell his stories about baseball. Look, if you've listened to this show for 419 episodes, or even less than that, you know, like, the words that I use all the time. You know the Sejanisms. I find it hard to believe that also in none of that discussion he would have ever said tiddlywinks to that woman. Not even referring to the boyfriend.
Only because of how sure and how important it is that Morgan figures out that this is a common thing for him to do, right?
Right.
Like, other than that, finding out, like, it would have been meaningless in the schema of, like, a TV show, but, like, in the real world, like, the idea that, like, This guy just said something random when he died. Your assumption that this may be AI written is pretty on the nose. And I will say that there has been some commentary about Rob Thomas and his writing as of late. I mean, the reception, for instance, of the Veronica Mars movie was not exactly the hottest, right? So like, there is definitely something to be said about the idea that like this just might just be the quality of this guy's writing, but also, but also. I love this idea that this was just an AI generated thing. I am a little concerned hearing that this is so much going kind of out of character and knowing that the writer of this particular episode is also one of the creators of the show, executive producers of the show. If this is more of a testing the waters for season 2 style thing, because as we all know, shows like this can have I was about to say high potential of becoming completely different shows in their second, third, fourth seasons. I think specifically of like what happened with Bones, where they do an entire soft reset of the team. They bring in Cam, the new leader, and things like that, and you basically get a secondary pilot as the season 2 opener and stuff like that. And so like that's just like an extreme example, but but we talk about this with shows all the time where they kind of find their footing. Look at what happened with something like Parks and Rec, where like the first season, the first 6 episodes are basically The Office 2.0, but then it finds itself a whole new kind of vibe in its second season. I wonder, watching a show like this, seeing the creator stepping in and all of this sort of stuff, if this is more of a should we be pushing ourselves more in this direction style thing? So like, is there anything else that stands out to you that this episode was kind of weirdly out of place with, besides the weird writing and like characters acting a little out of place?
The destruction of her relationship with the nursing guy, the guy who's like, I'm moving to San Diego, because that was such a big deal. The weird thing about this, I felt okay saying Siege and watch this 9th episode with no prior knowledge, because I thought this was our first episode back from the hiatus, from the winter hiatus. There was an episode on January 7th, but then looking back at it, that January 7th episode felt more like a winter finale than the actual winter finale. Because it ended with Soto, Judy Reyes, Carla from Scrubs, finding the Dominic Lombardozzi character, and it ended with like, I think I found somebody who might know something about where your husband is. And that feels more like the type of thing where you're not going to show another episode next week. That feels like the kind of finale baiting that it would be. And, the whole episode was a little bit like, it didn't have any of those, those moments where I'm thinking about like the 7th episode of Freaks and Geeks, where Freaks and Geeks was moved from where it was airing. I think it was like a Saturday night show originally, and it was moved to a more prominent place on the schedule. So they said to Paul Feig and Judd Apatow, we'd like you to write another episode so that if this is people's first time watching the show, they'll be able to understand all the characters. So the 7th episode, Carded and Discarded, sort of acts as a second pilot, but as the 7th episode of the series. This episode, in a lot of ways, also kind of felt like that second pilot syndrome, because maybe you didn't watch the first part before the finale, but with the Emmys having happened and the Golden Globes having happened and all these people talking about it, this is the first episode that you're tuning in for. I know that we have streaming and everything can be watched from the beginning now, but there are some like relics of how television shows were produced in the past that persist. And the first of all, the second episode being diametrically opposed to the pilot episode is not something that I don't think we're ever going to get away from, even with that sort of situation.
That's the structure, right? Because that's just the structure of the creative process more than it is the final product, right? Like, it's not like, that is so baked into the process of how do you make a TV show that essentially you have to do something wildly like out of character to break that mold, and you're never going to set a new. I agree with you 100%.
Right. So then the second thing is there's 4 episodes left as of this episode I asked you to watch. 9, 10, 11, 12. This episode really did feel like, if this is your first episode of High Potential, we're going to make sure that you kind of understand what's going on. Right? That moment where she's talking to the boyfriend who's leaving. I'm looking at Tracker because I also want to talk about how Tracker changed from season 1 to season 2, because real talk about what you're saying about how shows can shift between the first and second season. That is my biggest example right now. Let me go to this. The guy who ends up leaving, I don't know. I can't find his name or anything like that. But the guy, she was like sort of dating this dude.
The nurse?
What?
The nurse?
The nurse, yeah.
Yeah, the one that like leaves in the beginning.
The one that
episode,
leaves,
right?
we can have like a picnic. No, I'm heading for San Diego and all that. Like that whole thing was a big exposition dump about the fact that like, no, that's just how my mind works. I get fixated on other things and I forget about, and that takes priority. So other parts of my life fall apart. Like that was a huge thing in the beginning of the series, was her having this whole monologue about how it means I'm unable to keep a boy in any relationships. Sometimes I forget to eat for days at a time because my mind is special. I have high potential. So that moment, which also was like kicking that dude to the curb, but in the 8th episode, again, it felt like they were setting up for him to actually be like more of a nefarious plant because she was getting close to finding her missing husband of 15 years again. Like the fact that he's just gone and it feels like we've gotten rid of that story because people liked this character and we didn't want to like hurt him. There were definite breadcrumbs. This feels like a restart of the series. So like everything that you're saying about like people acting out of character and things like that, I feel like they just got kind of a jump on making those changes for the second season. One of the other
the other thing that I noticed in this regard, sorry, just to point out one more bit of that, is that we also got a moment to meet each one of her kids.
Yes.
And there was like straight up a moment where I was like, how many kids does she fucking have? Because I thought it was just one, right? Like, again, this is the first time I'd ever really dove into this, and I knew that there was a family dynamic to it, right? So when she showed up with the baby, I was like, oh, okay, it's a baby. That's interesting. Then all of a sudden, the next time that she sits down to talk to a child, it's this like 15-year-old girl. And you're just like, what the hell? And then the next time she sits down to talk to a child, it's this like 7-year-old boy. And so I'm just like, what is happening? And like, are they just changing the kid every time? Is this something? Are we going to find out that she just imagines her children the entire time? No, yeah. So, but to your point about like reintroducing people to the concepts and all that, they even do that with her family. They give you that moment with each one of her kids too.
And that thing that you discussed where they gave each one of the detectives like that moment to shine, that also kind of led into where their strength is on their team of major crimes. Because like Javicia Leslie, she is really good at the tech stuff. She's always doing like website stuff or internet things. The Oz character is good at just kind of, I can't really think of anything. I like him from Rookie Feds. He was really good in that show.
He seems very boots on the ground. He's the beat cop to the detective drama, right?
Yeah.
Like you need that one beat cop that they know that they like.
Yeah. So that's like he's out there and he knows that stuff and he's always willing to like interact with people. So like all of those moments that you talked about gave people these like, moments to shine were just like those moments with the kids where like they kind of put together everything there, right? Like the fact that the son, right, Matt Lamb, he is like her. He has a mind like her with the like, I'm spitting out a bunch of facts about the game of Tiddlywinks. And
Did you know the human head weighs 8 pounds?
Yeah, like that whole thing. Or the stuff with the 15-year-old is the fact that like they have a bit of a strained relationship because they don't really talk about what happened with her father. Right? Like it's easier to just avoid that. And now like, oh, we're going to start talking about it. And so one of the other things that shifted from the first episode to the second episode was the introduction of Garrett Dillahunt, the father from Raising Hope. He was also in Sprung. And then like, I think he's the white guy who betrays Chiwetel Ejiofor in 12 Years a Slave. He's like, oh yeah, I'll get out of here. He's another white man who ends up having to be a slave because of his like financial situation, but then he gets made an overseer and he betrays the trust that Solomon North had put in him. Like it's like I love Garrett Dillahunt. I think he's a great actor.
He plays a great asshole, but he's also phenomenally charming when he needs to be, which is what makes Raising Hope so fun.
Yeah. So he's a hell of an actor. He was added in the second episode as another captain who like was totally against Morgan being there. Like, he's like, I don't know what you're doing. Like, we have all these eyes on us right now, and you're hiring a fucking cleaning lady to be a detective consultant. And he is all but gone from the show. So the fact that he didn't show up to have some moment in this episode tells me that Garrett Dillahunt is probably written out of the show. Which makes me sad, but like, he always kind of felt like, well, they need somebody who's not on board with what's going on. And it's like, no, they don't really need somebody who's not on board with what's going on if she's actually doing a good job, right? Or, you know, maybe the people who support her being a consultant can think, you made a fucking mistake this week. Can we trust you to be our consultant, right? Give Judy Reyes that fucking burden of having to question her decisions.
Yeah, and it's an easy complication to bring in, and when you're first starting, I understand having a character like that, but I also understand why that's one of the first characters to go, because like you're pointing out, it's been done, it's tropey, and or worse, it seems unreasonable at some point. If we're supposed to buy into this idea that she is this good, like, and then what? then why is this in the world happening, right? Yeah, it's I'm not sad that I didn't see anything like that in this episode. I am very excited to see what this show actually becomes. If it ends up sticking around, you know, it did get that second season.
That's the other reason we're talking about it, is that second season renewal this week, right? They were very happy to announce that. And then to watch an episode that felt like, and we had a computer write this episode, so it'll be more profitable. Like, it was this weird dichotomy. So I do appreciate you taking the time to watch this program that you had never seen before, for me to test my theory of whether or not this may have been
that last scene, man. Yeah, no, that last scene was totally AI. The more and more that I think about it, where she's getting this like this information from this guy that's not really information. We learn really kind of nothing, and then she drops him off, and he walks into what they pull back to reveal is a church, as far as I can tell.
Yeah. What about like the Rams of it all? Like, the Rams of it all feels like a computer that is like, oh, the LA Rams, it's a cute reference, but it's like, but the LA Rams weren't a fucking thing 15 years ago. So, like, what is that reference? Like,
right. So, yeah, the Rams thing kind of was, that felt overly contrived to me too, but that I was also kind of, man, I did not have this thought while I was watching it, but now that you've put this thought in my head, I can't stop thinking it.
Right. And it was totally that autofile scene, because I'm like, oh, that's a clever name for a company like that. But then to reveal that this guy who has an LLC, so his name's not there, but his name is there? Like, I'm like, what is that? And then as I kept watching and hearing scenes, that last scene, right? Like, they go to that. First of all, there's that scene where they first go to Nosh Time, the name of the diner, where Judy Reyes and Caitlin Olsen meet with Dominic Lombardozzi. And he goes, there's nothing in this menu for me. And I half expected them to open up the menu and it have information inside. Like, that was weird. But no, it just introduced that location for then her to go. She's never gotten food there before. She's just like, oh, I went there for that meeting that one time. Why don't I pick up dinner for my family there? She got 2 huge bags of food, and then there's Dominic Lombardozzi being like, I need a ride. I'm not going your way. Yeah. So, like, you bring up really good points about Rob Thomas, especially with how people were like, wow, the Veronica Mars movie that we paid to kickstart to have happen, this is not the same quality of writing. Yeah. So I mean,
I have never been. I like Rob Thomas has been in the water for a long time in terms of television, right? And I've never followed him much in terms of in that regard. I was not big on Veronica Mars when it was out, not because I would like disliked it. It just wasn't the kind of shows that I watched at that time. Once I found it, like I enjoyed it, but that was like years later when it was available on like DVD. But yeah, so I can't speak to basically the overall quality of his work in general, but considering where the Veronica Mars movie landed with for a bunch of people and what little I have seen of this show, I will say that it's not the writing that seems fun and impressive about this show for me.
It's the acting.
yeah, what seemed really fun was that like it was a bunch of faces I recognized. It was people like actually like watching Caitlin Olsen in a role like this is extremely interesting to me because besides Always Sunny and The Mick was the other show of hers, right?
Yeah.
But but the thing with The Mick was like it kind of just felt like her Always Sunny character like taking a break. This feels different. This feels cool to watch. So like I'm excited to see more of that. But yeah, as far as the actual writing of the episode and the reveals and things like that, it was all pretty stock standard stuff.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say on this one, oh, you know what also Caitlin Olsen is really good? As Cheryl's sister in Curb Your Enthusiasm. That is expert casting. She is so good in that situation as like one of the only people in the world who calls out Larry David on his bullshit. Just popped into my head. But then also Garrett Dillahunt, when he was signed to the show, was supposed to be in 10 episodes. According to IMDb, he's only in 3 episodes. Excuse me. And his last episode was episode 7, which was the one where like, we accept you as part of this team. You're not just a consultant. You are a contributing member of this team was one of the main themes of that one. So yeah, Garrett Dillahunt probably not coming back. And I'm not really sad about it. I do love him, but he was just like a superfluous character in terms of what High Potential was doing and bringing to the table.
Man, that gif of him has been going around the last couple of weeks of that moment when he kicks the executive in the nuts and he says, "That's the canceling. My name is Earl."
That was 8 presidents ago. I loved that show. That's my favorite part. I've been rewatching Raising Hope, right, just for fun, because I really wanted to watch the Christmas episode. They have 4 really good Christmas episodes. 3. Like the second one is It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Hopeful Life, and that one's really good. And I'm like, let's watch the other ones and see. And they are all pretty good. So I've just been watching the show. That sequence right there, there's 4 episodes in season 3 of Raising Hope. The Yo Zappadoo episodes where they go to LA and he does that kick to the My Name is Earl guy, but also Mr. Savitsky from Yes Dear is the person that he's interacting with, that whole like storyline as the president of the network is excellent. And then they follow that up with Sex, Clowns, and Videotape, where freaking Mike O'Malley and I can't think of her name, but their 2 characters from Yes Dear are the ones that found their sex tape, and their sex tape is what allowed them to stay married, is great. And then that follows up with the freaking My Name is Earl reunion episode that I referenced last episode of the Say Report, where everybody comes back and Smokey Floyd, Jason Lee, has a list. Like, they just like, we're loading this up the tail end of season 3, because if we're not going to get a season 4, we want to make sure we did all of this fan service. And yeah. Also, I couldn't think of Camden County last year. Camden County is the setting of My Name is Earl. To just finish that whole thing out.
Nice.
Yes. All right, Siegen, is there anything on your desk you want me to guess about? What's going on in your life?
I don't know, man. Like I've just been I've been trying to dick around a little bit more with the PlayStation. I've been diving into a whole bunch of stuff on the PlayStation Plus. Decided to, so because I got the PlayStation at the end of the year last year for Christmas and holiday stuff, I received a couple of PlayStation bucks to spend. So I decided to treat myself and went for like the mega package right now, like the high end PlayStation Plus package for I think I was able to snag myself like 6 months of it when all was said and done. And so do you know much about like the high end package? I imagine that it's not the one everyone's on.
So I have Essential. I know there's PlayStation Plus. Like, what are the levels? Yeah, all Premium. 3 tiers.
But there's
Essential, Extra, Premium, and then there's a Deluxe, is what this is saying? Like, I don't know anything
Deluxe
about...
may be the one that I'm on, because the biggest part of the reason why I went with the highest end package is that in addition to all the PlayStation Plus stuff, you also get access to an entire catalog of Sony films.
Oh, wow.
Like, it's just Sony Picture Classics, I think is the specific. Like, as long as they're under that banner, then there's like hundreds of films that are just available to you, and they're all available in 4K streaming.
That's
Like
awesome.
they're just there on the PlayStation. So like it's wild. So I was like, well, yeah. I mean, like I've got this Christmas money. I've got some interest in seeing what you got. Plus, it got me all of the stuff along the way with all of the PlayStation. So I was like, plus I get to play all these games. So they got me. They got me good. So I've just been like diving in and seeing what's been available there between the games and the movies and stuff. And like I don't think that I've actually gotten more than like 30 minutes into anything, but I've just been like trying a whole bunch of shit, and it's been fun to have something to explore again. Tried a little bit of Astro's Playroom because you mentioned that if I really wanted to check out Astrobot, I should check that out first. And it is, first of all, gorgeous.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Like,
yeah, it moves beautifully. Like, and it is a tech demo for the system, so I'm not surprised that it is performing as well as it is. But more that just it's just fun. It's a fun feast for the eyes. But also, it's a blast to play. Like for some pretty basic platforming concepts, like there's a lot going on in it that like makes it really fun. Reasons to go back to places and collect other things, try different paths, finding hidden shit and things like that. It's getting me good. So I mean, if this is just basically the one to Astro's, or Astrobot being part two, like I'm super on board. So I'm probably going to be buying that game soon.
excellent. I'm glad to hear it, but I do want to make sure when I confirmed that it was still available, I wanted to make sure that all my friends who got PS5s for Christmas or the holiday season knew you don't need to go get Astrobot. You have this game to start things off. And I'm happy that like you played it and you enjoyed it. Hab Guy, one of the other friends I had that got a PS5, he's going to come up a little later in the episode with one of the big things I've been doing this past week. So let's put a pin in Hab Guy. And like he platinumed it. He's like, I just got the platinum on Astro's Playroom. Thanks for mentioning that it existed because I didn't know it came with my system.
Well, I didn't realize it was a full-fledged game.
Yeah.
I thought it was like, what was it on the PS3 where it was like, it sounded like it was a game, but then when you went into it, it was basically like a Second Life, like Sony, like Hangout space or something.
Like Second something? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I thought it was like that. I thought it was just one of those, here's an online area for you to meet friends and like make plans to play
PlayStation
other
Home.
actual games.
Sorry,
PlayStation Home, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they did all sorts of weird stuff, like Sims level shit, where you could get like furniture for your PlayStation Home and like art and stuff you could put up, and you could go and visit your friends and see their place. Like they really, it was Second Life. Like they tried to create like a Second Life that you would have specifically on your PlayStation. Yeah, and I thought it was in that realm. I didn't realize that it was a game. Like if they should have made that much more clear. But I think that is fucking par for the course with the entire PlayStation 5's existence. Is that at no point did Sony ever just come out and just say, hey, this is what the PlayStation 5 is. Here are our plans for it. Here's what already is with it. They never said that. They just expected word of mouth on so much shit to just carry them. And it bit them in the ass, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of other things did too. Things like the what happened in the market with pricing and stuff like that.
And availability with all the shortages.
That. But I think that part of the reason why I didn't even bother to get involved in all of that is because I was already only half interested because I didn't know anything about this system. There's just so much going on with it now that I'm super happy and excited that I'm like discovering. But why am I only discovering this 5 years later as somebody that is a PlayStation player? Like, it's not like I was an Xbox person brought over. I own a PS4. This is the system I was already in. Like, why was it so hard for them to get information to me about this system? I don't know. But that's been their thing all along, right?
Yeah. And also is the fact that, like, Astrobot has two other games before Astro's Playroom. Like, there was The Playroom, which was the PS4 sort of version of PlayStation Home, where you interacted with Astro and played a bunch of different things. And then there was Astro Bot Rescue Mission, which was a PlayStation VR tech demo. So, like, the fact that the fourth game, we always talk about how sequels are what, like, cements what game style is and everything. Everybody losing their mind over Astrobot and it winning Game of the Year as the fourth game in a series that most people don't even know that there's a game that came for free on the system you need to play Astrobot, starring the same character that is very similar gameplay, is totally just PlayStation not understanding their messaging in America. And I'm going to specifically say in America because I can't believe that this is how they handle things in Japan with the way that their market share is over there. That Xbox and Microsoft cannot even chip their way in. That like Sony is for like serious people and Nintendo is for people who want to have fun. Like, I mean, again, that's my view of how they're doing it over there. But they are clearly communicating better in Japan than they are in America.
I mean, even now, there's been the start of the rumors of PlayStation 6 have started to kind of swirl around, right? And we're nowhere near that moment yet that we were with Nintendo, where they just waited too fucking long. But like, I wonder what they will learn from their mistakes with the 5. I wonder when we will hear about a PlayStation 6 and what we will hear specifically and all that. Because man, they need to step it up if they want people to get back in on the PlayStation. I am so happy that I waited to buy this thing, and I'm happy that I now own it. I don't regret I don't regret waiting, but I also don't regret now being in the system. I just they can't, the same thing can't happen with the 6, right?
No. And honestly, I don't think they'll allow... Look at what is happening with the Nintendo Switch 2, and the fact that even though that initial reveal kind of felt like, oh, this was fun, but a lot of this stuff we already knew because of leakers and people who are like, yeah, no, look at this thing that I 3D printed, that this is what the Switch 2 is going to fucking look like. Like, we had so much there. But then that being basically an announcement of an announcement on April 2nd, and then based upon everything that we know about the hands-on experiences going till June 1st, again, it's conjecture still, but there's a pretty good chance that we're not seeing a Nintendo Switch 2 before the second half of 2025, right? I'm talking July forward. I really hope that it's out before July, specifically the 23rd, because I'm taking a trip. And I'd love to have the Nintendo Switch along with the Nintendo Switch 2 along with me, right? While I have 7 days of just actual vacation, something I haven't done in about 6 years. It'd be real nice if that was my traveling companion. That being said, I don't know if that's going to happen. It's just where my mind is at. But the time they're taking with the announcement of the Nintendo Switch 2 tells me they want to make sure that they have product. With the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series, it really kind of felt like they were in an arms race to get the next big thing out to us. And I don't think that that's what we're going to see from the Sony PlayStation 6 or the Xbox, whatever their next system is going to be called.
Xbox just, I mean, there was just some stuff that came out.
They just had a showcase. I didn't watch it. I haven't bothered to Google to see what I missed. Like,
but specifically that they are more than willing to play ball with Nintendo moving forward. They openly talked about how they are happy to start establishing a relationship with Nintendo for whatever that means.
For whatever that means.
But we know the whole like Xbox attitude has for the last few years been this like Xbox Anywhere thing, right? Like,
yeah.
We don't care if you buy the system, we want you to have access to the software because that's where they're making the money anyway. And I mean, from the outside, it seems like the smartest move. I don't understand why you wouldn't go that way, and for the way that they're acting about it, at least, which is just good marketing on their part. But this whole move of theirs to just say like, just buy, you know, get an account on your computer, get an account on your handheld, get an account on you know, this opening the door to Xbox being available in other places. I don't know if we're gonna see another Xbox physical console.
I thought they had announced what the console follow-up was going to be.
I mean, I wonder if they're going to move the way of like remember the Steam experiment that they did a few years back, the like Steam box, like probably about 10 years ago now at this point, that you could like buy, and it was basically a console for Steam, but it basically was just a little computer. It was probably just a what do you call it, a Cherry Pie or whatever they are.
Yeah. A Raspberry Pi.
Like Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it, but it was essentially like they sold it as this idea that like it is basically got on the level of your computer. It has the same bits your computer has. So even if you're good enough, you can even upgrade it and all that stuff. And then like Steam did or Valve did what they always do in those things, is that they backed away from it. They learned whatever they learned from it, and then went back into their cave for the next 5 years. So like that kind of went away. But this idea that Xbox moving away from the console market, meaning that they were like, yeah, we're available anywhere. We are still going to continue to put out a thing that Xbox can be on, but we maybe won't refer to it as an Xbox anymore, or it will be more than an Xbox, or it'll be less than. It'll be something like, hey, this isn't even the preferred method for us for you to be playing this, but we wanted to make something available. We'd rather that you just get us on PC. We'd rather you just get us on Nintendo. We'd rather you just sign up for an Xbox account and play us everywhere. But if you really feel like you need something in order to actually call it an Xbox, then here's this physical thing that you can hook up to your TV, like an Ouya or something like that, right?
God, look at this guy mentioned the Ouya. So here's my thing. Do you know why it's called an Xbox?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
So good. So Professor Devon with video game history.
Other than just marketing?
No. It is literally a personal computer. It is a Windows device that is exclusively running DirectX. It is a DirectX box. So DirectX being the graphics processing brainchild of the Microsoft company. So we're going to develop this PC, this personal computer, but all it is optimized to run is our DirectX platform, hence Xbox.
Okay.
Now that's a thing to know, right? Because they also still have Windows on PCs. What Microsoft should do, I don't know why I'm saying this, but it just popped into my head, and literally, this is what Microsoft should do. This is how they should market Xboxes going forward, is take the Apple approach and be like, this is a computer that's for idiots. No offense, I'm using an Apple right now, right? But if you don't want something complicated, because essentially with your Xbox, the reason why I was able to have my Xbox hacked back when I was in high school, and that hack also included, let's see if we can do it, right? We're dicking around at the Radio Shack. We all work here. Let's have fun some Friday night. Let's see if we can add a USB port to the original Xbox. And we did that. And it wasn't that hard to do. It's one of those situations where we've given you a full-on Windows PC, but we've freaking just crippled its ability to be the rest of the PC. If I could go out and buy for $500 a computer that can play games real well, but also can do some of the other things you expect from a Microsoft machine, like Word and Excel, right? And other office tasks with it, they would be fucking printing money. They why don't they do that?
Like Teams, let this be your communications device as well as your television as well as your video game machine, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly, talking about Apple, right? You're talking about putting the whole thing in one package and giving it to people. And let's not act like that wasn't the console promise all along, right? The console game, the reason why people fight over console over PC is this idea that the console is this toned down version. It's basically everything you need to play the games and nothing else. And so you don't have to worry about all the moving parts. Thus, it doesn't need to be upgraded all the time, blah, blah, blah. That has always been the benefit of going console over PC.
Right.
PC gaming is one of the biggest cons has been that you always have to be buying and upgrading your shit in order for games to truly be optimized. Whereas a console, you can pretty much guarantee for the life of that console, everything for that is going to be optimized for that. So that has always been in the water. Xbox leaning into that and saying you come to our system for specifically this, and because of that we can do these other things with it. It sounds really reminiscent of PlayStation and the PlayStation 3 being buy this because it will play Blu-rays, right? Or the PS2, buy this, it will play movies, right?
The PS2 winning that console generation because it was an affordable DVD player that could also play video games.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is not none of this is new to the video game market, but I do think that makes it all the more likely that we will see Xbox do something more moving forward, rather than trying to get into the race war with fucking PlayStation over this. They're hey, who's gonna get this thing to market faster? Who's gonna make it bigger, better? Which one of us is gonna get Blu-ray? Which one of us is gonna get HD DVD? And let's see which wins. Instead of it being that, Xbox happily taking a back seat in the console market so that in the software market they can get the lead. I think that makes much more sense for them because of where they've already been going. In the grand scheme of things, I don't know. Like, people get real serious about like wanting that Xbox console still. Like, I think them disappearing entirely is probably not likely, but I could see them not wanting to be the best of the best anymore in that market, not wanting to waste their resources there, and instead putting it towards software that people actually want to buy. Because the other side of things with Xbox right now is that the other reason that we don't hear much about what's going on with them is they haven't been doing so hot in terms of like the acquisitions and the games coming out. Like, I don't know the last time I heard of a Xbox game that was like blowing people's fucking minds. Halo is in such a weird place. I don't know, like they had were they
Indiana
the ones
Jones
that,
and the Great Circle is the
that
last big one, but that's on everything, right? Like, it's available on every system.
right? Yeah, that's what I mean is like
yeah.
and Halo we just found out is coming to PlayStation, didn't we?
I didn't hear about that. I just know, and I mean, like, right now, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is Windows and Xbox Series XS exclusive, with it coming to PlayStation 5 Q1 or Q2. I didn't know. Is Halo coming to Xbox? I mean, if Halo's coming to Xbox, that makes sense. Halo coming to
IGN did an article on the 14th.
Yep, January
Halo finally
14th.
looked
I'm seeing
set
it.
to make the jump. Yep.
Yeah, and here's one from thegamer.com. Halo coming to PS5 is the beginning of the end for the Xbox.
Yep, I'm looking at that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, like, Xbox moving away from the physical market space makes sense. I just don't think they're going to be gone completely because there's way too many fanboys out there for them to not take advantage, right?
Yeah.
Nintendo is just going to kind of keep doing its Nintendo thing it's always done, which puts PlayStation in this prime spot to do something real good for PlayStation if they could just stick the frickin' landing. I want to see how they mess this one up.
Yeah. And the fact that that's the discussion, because it's going to be, how is PlayStation going to fuck up the fact that the world is open to them? And again, we say that right now.
Snatch victory from the jaws of defeat or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, right now, we don't know. Like, the Switch 2, I want to know how fucking powerful the machine is. I want to know the types of games that I can play on the Switch 2. Because, honestly, there's no reason that it shouldn't be able to play most of the stuff that like a Steam Deck or any of these other handheld PC systems can play, right? They need to do something to distinguish themselves from the rest of the market, and it can't just be Mario games anymore. Because also, sorry, like, this is why Nintendo's so pissed about emulation when you can run the Mario games on your PC and it doesn't become a discussion anymore, right? Like, it's just where we're at. I don't know. I do not know. Ugh, goodness. Just for the record, PlayStation Premium is probably what you have because you live in the United States and thus have access to the PS3 games. In any country where you don't have that, that's what PS Plus Deluxe is. The lack of the PS3 library is what makes it deluxe, but it is still the same tier as premium. Because of course it fucking is. Because of course, like, as all the like praise that we did just kind of deliver to Sony as this fact that like you guys are keyed to be the winners, right? I think it would be hard to argue. I mean, they kind of won Gen 9, right? Because Gen 9 right now being the Xbox Series XS and the PS5. The PS5 seems to be the better, if those are the two combatants. I think the Steam Deck would be the actual winner, but for different reasons. And also, is it a console or is it a fucking handheld, right? Are we still going to do that whole thing? Had a lovely...
No. Well, the PlayStation also, we did also hear this week that they did do some sales record this week, right? Didn't they end up selling like the most growth or something in 2024 or something? Like they put out some metric that, you know, obviously tweaked to make them look like the best one in it, whatever the wording was, but they did top something out. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, I'd like that. I think that's a good thing to look at because all of this stuff happened game-wise, like the Xbox Showcase and stuff like that. I'm going to share with the class the video game thing that I was busy with all week. And CJ, I'm sorry, it wasn't Pizza Tower. piece of how is going to happen, but that's going to be in the wrap up of this episode with all the plans and things that we need to talk about.
PS5 was forecast to be the best-selling console of 2025. They got 40% of sales, while the Switch got 36%.
Okay.
Oh no, sorry. Moving forward, they're predicted to be
for 2025.
So 2024 they were pretty close. Switch outdid them, and then it's expected that they'll pass that because of the Switch 2. That basically they'll be the tops. So again, they're in prime position to be number one here. Let's just see how they fuck it up.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. While we're still talking about video games, and then we're also going to talk about more video games either. Sejin, are you familiar that Pokemon cards are back at McDonald's? I mean, you don't really seem the type of person who goes to McDonald's that often, but I don't know.
But I did hear about the kids meals, right? The Happy Meals that are all coming to them. 12 different ones that they're introducing, right?
Yeah. So here's what we're going to do. Dayle is real big into this. And as we've done in the past, we will take submissions from listeners. They are screened beforehand. But this is really interesting, the stuff that's going on with the Pokemon McDonald cards and the trading card game Pocket app. This is where the real controversy is sort of sitting. And it's also touched me because I've gone out and gotten Happy Meals to get Pokemon cards for my sister. Are you all right if I read this little 300-word thing that she prepared for us, Sejin?
Well, yeah. Hold on.
Yeah.
I think we need to provide a little bit more context here. So Pokemon the trading card game, it never went away, right? As far as I know, it's been a huge part of the whole thing for them anyway, right? Revenue wise and all that.
Yeah, I think it's been it was a year after the games came out that the cards came out, and they've existed this whole time. The difference being that YouTubers who are of note have really kept the trading card game alive with crazy things I bought a first edition Charizard for $6 million. That's satire.
Well, and we're getting that's what they spent, and the other thing is something has happened. This is what I'm trying to get at, right? Something has happened in the last few months, few years, where the Pokemon trading card game has hit the nostalgia point. People that were kids when they came out and had to beg their parents for money now are the ones in the position to make the money, and so now they're spending this money on their stuff that they wanted when they were kids, right? So the trading card game has risen to the top of the zeitgeist recently, right? So taking full advantage of that is this marketing move where McDonald's now is going to have 12. Are they exclusive cards? Is that what the deal is?
So, I mean, that's part of what Dayle, let me read this and then we can do it. Because she kind of gave all that information in it. I've read it. Yeah. So this is what Dayle prepared on it. The McDonald's and Pokemon TCG Pocket promo offered a code when you purchase a Happy Meal for in-game rewards. You also get a nice little poster/sticker game and a 4-pack of Pokemon cards, including big name dragon types, with 15 cards in total to collect. You also hopefully get a cool Happy Meal box with either Rayquaza, Charizard, Dragonite, and Pikachu, or Roaring Moon, a Paradox Pokemon that looks like an ancient Salamence. The in-game rewards for TCG Pocket were for 24-pack hourglasses and 12 Wonder Hourglasses, which apparently equal 2 packs and 1 Wonder Pick. These hourglasses actually can open and pick more if you're patient. Devon sent me a code and I was able to redeem it without issue, but when I purchased a Happy Meal and got a code in my email, asking to opt in for email receipts, I got an error reading that the code had already been used for my account. Double-checked the codes were different and then double-checked the fine print of the promo. In the fine print, it does accurately state that you can only redeem for the rewards once per TCG Pocket account. I'm fine with it since they do have it in writing that it would only be able to use once, though I think they could have allowed it to be used up to 2 to 4 times. What I'm not okay with is that every time I get a Happy Meal now, I still get a code. If you can tie the rewards to TCG Pocket, you can certainly tie it to my McDonald's account. All in all, I'm happy with the physical Happy Meal toy and grateful for free rewards. I just wish they didn't keep sending codes that are now useless. I just need now to remember to opt out of the emails. LOL. Okay, so yeah, so
I guess my question is if it's tied to your McDonald's account, because it would have to be in order for them to email you the receipt, right? Right. That is where that comes into play. And don't send me any more of this promo because I've already
I can't use it again. That's the thing. Yeah, I mean, personally, I have a problem with it because if I were using the trading card game, right, I could buy these products. So what I'm doing is I'm buying from McDonald's.
But to be clear, this is all tied to an app version of the trading
Yes.
card game, right?
Yeah, which
So
is just
that's
come
where
out.
I think I'm getting lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
Is that this idea that there is physical cards that come in the Happy Meals, and there's already been some people that are kind of getting a little weird about that, because this is what happens when you get collectors involved in anything. Shit gets weird, right?
Yes.
Look at what happened with fucking Costco and the Pokemon card like problems that they've been having with people coming in and buying fucking pallets of the shit. But this idea that there's also now a digital aspect to all this, because in addition to the trading card game physically, there is also an electronic version of it. Now, like, is it your same cards one to one, or do you have different cards on the app that you would in real life, or like, what is the app all about?
Yeah, so Trading Game Pocket came out October 30th of 2024. It's a free-to-play mobile adaptation of the Pokemon trading card game. I think that Pokemon cards have like a QR code so that you can add in any physical cards you get going forward, like that are tied into it. I don't know. I'm trying to see anything about that. Because I remember the original Pokemon trading card game online, before it became an app on your cell phone, you could add your physical cards to the game to play with them online. Like Magic the Gathering allows that too. That's not a new crazy thing. So
yeah, the trading card, the digital life of the trading card game is actually fascinating to me, because there actually was a digital version of the trading card game available pretty much immediately after the trading cards came out, right? So the original game comes out, trading card games come a year or two later when the US release happens, right? Don't they coincide? And then like pretty soon after that, there's a digital Game Boy version of the trading card game that they specifically created to teach people how to play the trading card game. Like they wanted people to be so invested in the physical thing because they could make bank off of it, that they created a video game to teach you how to play the physical game, and that has had an ongoing life in that has then turned into a phone app now that is available. Is just it's a wild fucking
well, and then there's also in the between, because the Pokemon trading card game comes out in 1998. 2011 is where we see Pokemon trading card game online, which is a for your desktop. You play that way. And then you had Pokemon Trading Card Game Live in 2023 before Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, which is the new one that came out this past October, that this is tying itself to. So
this is the grossest form of what we always talk about.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Nostalgia collection shit. Like when we talk about like this is a thing that you were just super into when you were a kid, and they're taking advantage of that now by having you, because they have been with us all along, right? Like it's easy for us to point out when other generations are kind of indulging themselves in this and things like that, but like the ways in which Pokemon, and I mean South Park did it, right? That entire episode that they do about the indoctrination of Pokemon. Oh shit, man.
Got to buy it, got to buy it.
Yeah, but there's this thing that like it ingrained itself so deep in our brains and in our society that I mean it's on the level of Disney. It's on the level of of something like Nintendo in that regard, like separate from Nintendo, even though it's a Nintendo product in the end. For a lot of us, like it has become this thing that is so much more than that because of the merch, because like the merch spun itself its own video games that spun itself its own merch now. Like we're now talking about merch for a video game that was created to explain the merch for another video game.
Yeah, and also from its very inception, Pokemon was trying to turn you into a collector. That you gotta catch them all, you have to have all 151. Like, that mentality is what is born from the Pokemon games. And the fact that it has stayed a presence in our lives since its release in America in 1998 is kind of crazy. Like I don't want to throw up in my mouth here, but I'd get it if I
Yeah,
did.
no, it's
Like it is, and like, but you say like, but then like. I think about Ninja Turtles and there was a whole controversy this week of NECA reaching out to people who were early access tier reward members so that they could buy the blind boxes of TMNT product that they put out this week that were sold out within 30 minutes. And then like the discussion of how do you become early access. And if you go to the reward page on NECA's website, like I'm a premium member, and it shows it's because I earned 5,000 of their points to become a premium member. But then for early access, it just says coming January 2025. And we've seen people who are clearly that early access level who are offered product. And yet, like, we don't know how you get offered that product. So,
well, you have to have so many viewers. Like
no,
right?
it's not viewer. It is. I wish it were that. It is not. It is specifically tied to the money that you spend there. Like it is not just because it's been on a bunch of like sites and people are like, I don't even have a YouTube channel and I got like access, and it's like, oh, okay. Or I don't use my public facing persona when I'm purchasing things so that I can do videos that NECA won't find out about. If I'm going to be critical. And I'm critical of NECA this week. They did a release because they have the Universal Studios Monsters license. And I don't know if you remember around like 2000 when they did the Burger King Kids Club toys of like Frankenstein that lit up and the Dracula that came out and all those. They've done versions of those. And they were NECA. I don't know why I said it like that. NECA store exclusives. So I can't buy them in like a store. I mean, they say that, but eventually one day they might show up at Target. Though it seems like Target has realized that hitching their wagon to NECA may have been a bit of a falsehood based upon what the collector section looks like now. A lot less NECA there. I'll just be honest with it. And I think that's because it was just kind of clouding up the shelves. But regardless. So I ordered this because I loved those freaking Burger King toys, right? And so get like a modernization in like an adult scale. I'm just going to put them out at Halloween like I do with my Burger King Kids Club toys from 30 years ago. That's my plan, right? The box comes, it is open, and shoved inside the box is my packing receipt. Why? Why would you do that? Why would you treat me like that? I don't get that. Like, you don't know what I'm going to do with it. And the whole, like, one of the whole sales thing is that, like, packaged so that it can be displayed in package. Like, in package, it looks like when you went into Burger King however many years ago and they had, like, that plastic thing where all the toys were displayed. They've recreated that as the package. So, like, maybe you're just going to keep it in the package because of that. Maybe you're not going to open it. But no, it's been manhandled and open, and someone shoved my packing receipt inside the box. That's not something that just randomly happened after it was packed. That was an intentional decision by somebody.
Jesus, yeah. I mean, like, there are people out there that if that's what happened, like,
it happened when I ordered like the giant size Michelangelo that I got in the blind box that we opened in the Surviving Christmas episode. I've ordered 2 Raphaels like that. Both of them came with the front plastic just destroyed. And I returned them because I don't want that. I'm going to open him. I'm going to take him out of the box, but also I want to keep the box to store him in. Right? And if I damage it, that's one thing. But when it comes to me damaged, I'm not going to take that like that. And additionally, this thing that I got from NECA, like the window plastic that like makes it look like that, it's glued to the top of the box. All that glue is done. So like it's not an intact box at all. And I need to contact NECA. Hopefully they don't listen to this particular program. Though if they do, that's why I'm not a member of the Premium Access Club, right? Because
I was gonna say you have questions about why
I'm whitelisted, baby. But yeah, so I mean, I don't want, but I am I'm in the process of contacting them. I'm having NECA problems currently because I ordered a Monsterizer specifically to use with this Frankenstein, and they shipped me the leg lamp from A Christmas Story. Now, I'm not one of these people who got one of the Donatello Lab diorama sets valued at $300 for free. They just shipped out. Anybody who bought one got a second one for free. because because their shipping system just generated the labels twice. Because of course it did.
Shit.
Yeah, that was the whole big deal. And then months later, the contact of hey, you got this for free. If you send it back to us, we'll give you 50% off a next purchase of a TMNT product on our store. And a lot of people were like, I don't think I'm going to send that back to you, NECA, because, possession is 9/10 of the law. Is it the morally right thing to do? Yes. But also, it took you so long to do it. And then they doubled down on that and said, if you don't send it back, we're going to charge you the $300 for it, which that's not legal. Unsolicited stuff sent to you cannot later be charged for.
Right.
That's
you can't do that at all.
You can't do that, nigga. So they really put their foot in their mouth. They also did it with the 1-to-1 scale baby Beetlejuice figure from Beetlejuice that they did. A bunch of people got free stuff. And then I'm sitting there as the one schmuck who ordered a NECA store exclusive Monsterizer specifically so that Frankenstein could light up and it could be part of my Halloween diorama that I'm going to put up every Halloween. I get a leg lamp from freaking A Christmas Story. They're like, yeah, once we figure out what's going on, we'll ship you out the Monsterizer, but you need to ship us back the leg lamp. And I have no problem shipping them back the leg lamp, but they're like, we'll contact you with the label to send it back to us. I have not gotten the label from them, see, Jim? And I have said to them multiple times, still waiting for my Monsterizer, and also, I haven't gotten the label from you. So I'm not super excited to jump back into the ball pit of poor customer service that is the National Entertainment Collectors Association. Ha-ha! I remembered it. I thought it ended with S for some reason. And say, oh, by the way, this other expensive set that is an exclusive to your website came hella damaged and manhandled. How can we make this right? Because they haven't even made right the other orders. And I got to tell you, here's the last thing. If I had been sent the label from them for the Christmas Story leg lamp, I'm not shipping it back till they ship me the product I'm supposed to get. I don't mean to hold a collectible hostage, but baby, I'm not good faith on you where you ship me something that wasn't even available on your website.
There's some higher level shit that's also going on right now with a lot of things in terms of shipping.
Oh, yes. Very, very aware of that.
Without going too far down the fucking rabbit hole, just a lot of regulations and rules that are going to be shifting, and not just in the United States. The problem with this shit, right, is that people really don't seem to understand the ripple effect that certain things are going to have with us deregulating and getting rid of a bunch of regulators in our country, and a lot of things kind of have come to a halt. A lot of people thought this would mean, oh, this is going to get stuff out of the way so that things happen faster and things happen cleaner and we can deal directly with people and there's not a bunch of red tape. And really what we learned is, no, the whole system has just stopped, actually. Which is we kind of told you that was what would happen, but anyway, we're not getting into that right now at this moment. But with that going on, and then leading to larger things in the world that are just now kind of up in the air in terms of ships keep getting fucking stuck in places and shit like that. And now there's certain major shipping passageways that are now kind of being warded off, where we're being kind of guarded off from it here in the United States. So there's a lot of things that are going on right now that are just not helping, right? Add to that these fucking companies that just keep fucking whiffing it with some of this shit, double printing shipping labels is a huge mistake. And I get that shit happens, man, but at that point, how do you not just kind of take the fucking hit? How dare you come after people and be like, we're going to charge you this money if you don't send it back to us? Fuck off. You screwed up huge. Take that fucking loss and move on.
The other thing that they did that I didn't even mention was be like, you're taking it out of the hands of another collector who pre-ordered it by holding on to it. And it's I feel like you guys did that, right? By sending me a second one. I know that the moral thing is to fix the problem, but don't say it's my fault for you sending me something I didn't order. You did that. I'm just a recipient. And again, I'm not a recipient, but like, that's like, don't try to be like, someone else ordered that and they didn't get theirs. And it's like, yeah, that kind of sucks. But you know whose fault that is? Yours.
Yeah.
Like, but I guess it also talks about like, we're talking about how like Pokemon, like, oh, it feels like they're printing money, and Ninja Turtle stuff. The Ninja Turtles collectors, and I know it seems weird that I'm like separating myself from that, because I definitely have a bit of the virus that makes it so like Ninja Turtle stuff is something that I want, but nowhere near the level of some of these other people that I have seen who just because it says Ninja Turtles on it, they need to buy it. The people who are like, oh, IDW is doing a blue label, red label, and black label version of this book. I need all three of those. Even though the book itself is the same content with that like extra stuff that comes from it, I'm going to drop that $700 to make sure I have all of them. There's only 10 of the blue label. Well, if I don't get one of those, you know, like, I don't know if I'm going to be in a good mental state. Like, these are real things that I've read. And it's like, so like you're being taken advantage of, and you seem to know that you're being taken advantage of, but it brings you joy. And that's like scary. So it's, but like, if their profit, and I understand that, like, yes, a whole print run of like, say it was even just 200 of those dioramas at $300, the profit margin on that probably isn't like super high. I'd imagine like $150 per lab is going to be profit. Though I don't know. I mean, once you have the molds made and just printing it and everything, I don't know. I don't know how much the profit margin is, but it still shows how razor thin the profit margins can be on some of this stuff that you think is essentially printing money.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is like kind of scary, right? That everything is just built on Tinders.
So back to the to
Pokemon,
Dayle, right?
Yeah,
and everything that was going on with that. So, so from what I'm gathering from what you wrote, there's basically boosters that you could get, and like, is that? I mean, are those super valuable to people, or were those like? Because to me, this entire thing, I have known about the physical cards that come in these things, and that is where I've heard a lot of people getting kind of weird about.
And it's the same argument of
get like 12 meals at once and stuff.
Right.
But
kids aren't able to get the toy, and that's like, and I feel for that, right? It's a Happy Meal, it's for kids, but it's also like, but like, why should McDonald's care? McDonald's just wants the profits of selling those 12 Happy Meals.
Right.
Like,
but what is the value add of this digital side of this? Are these like really hard things to get a hold of in the game or something? Like, what is the point of them?
Yeah. Well, let's look it up. Wonder Hourglasses and Hourglasses. Let's see how much they like are in TCG Pocket. So what? Wonder Pick Trick. There's all this stuff. Like, the other thing is how people like break these games. So Wonder Hourglass, how to get and use. How to get them. When you level up, you receive 12 Wonder Hourglasses as a reward. By leveling up, you get them. So it's already a reward. And then they can be used for a Wonder Pick. Used to reduce the time to get Wonder Stamina. Reduces time to Wonder Pick by 1 hour. Obtainable as mission rewards and so forth. Each Wonder Hourglass can only be used to reduce the waiting time for Wonder Picks by 1 hour. You can recover up to 5 Wonder Stamina at a time. So, like, even then, right? If I buy 4 Happy Meals, I get 4 codes, and thus I get 48 of these Wonder Hourglasses. I can only use 5 a day, it seems like. Or 5 per Wonder Pick. So, like...
Yeah,
like, where's the economy there?
I never feel more old than when you're reading this shit, and I'm just, like, feel myself just turning to dust. I'm just like, I don't know what any of these words mean. I know individually what these words mean, but in the series in which you have said them, they make no sense. But this idea that, like... I don't know. It seems this already feels kind of very tacked on. So the more and more I learn about it, the less and less I think they gave a shit about this side of this promotion.
Yeah. Well, but then the other thing is that, like, one of the reasons that I think the Pokemon Company would want to use this part of the promotion is to get people to download this app. Oh, I got this code. I've been thinking about this game. Let me try it out. Right. So
But once you've downloaded it, they don't fucking care. They've got you at that
they
point.
got you
You've
at
got it
that
on your
point.
phone.
Yeah, you're in the phone. They're collecting the data. Also, we didn't do it. Our whole thing on TikTok became the quickest expiration topic I think we've ever covered on this show, right? Because by the time the episode released to everybody, you could use TikTok again. Didn't we feel like we turned to dust at that time? So, but that's the thing is that like, so what I don't understand, and they did the right thing. I will say they are doing the right thing. It's in the fine print that you can only use one code per thing, but then also don't generate a code every fucking time. Right? Because, like, what am I supposed to do with those codes? Is it so that I make multiple accounts? How does that help them?
It's where they're generating the code. They're probably generating the code right at the point of sale,
right.
Which means that they're not bothering to put any checks or anything in
balance,
because it would take too long for it to do that, to like figure out if you needed the code to then print a receipt. You're adding time to the sale, and McDonald's isn't going to let you do that. Fuck that. No. So the answer is it's just going to generate a code every time, and they'll just have an error message on the back end if you've already done it. The end. Like it's the easiest, quickest solution to make everybody involved in the business side happy, and essentially it shows that the customer end of the entire experience is disposable, essentially, in that math.
Oh my goodness. So the Providence Journal, because of course, right, local references. While the exact prices of these cards differ, searches on eBay show that booster packs are selling for $6 individually. I don't think you can buy the toys separately. Some toys you can do that, but with Pokemon, they make you buy the food. And about $5 for a Happy Meal. So, like, if you can't get them at the store, you pay $1 premium for just the booster packs. But the coveted holographic cards of Pokemon found in Dragon Discovery, like Pikachu, are fetching up to $30 each at the time of writing. And that's from 2 days ago.
And these are the physical cards.
The physical card, yeah. These Pokemon, this is the headline. These Pokemon cards are fetching high prices online. You can find them in a Happy Meal now. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think out here, I would spend probably $5 and some odd cents to get a Happy Meal. Like I think
right, for the lowest level, which is just a hamburger Happy Meal, right?
Right.
Because like nuggets cost more.
So if I were not a collector, but if I were a trader, if I was one of these people that is showing up and buying pallets of fucking cards at Costco and pissing everybody off, like this is not the easiest way for me to make money, but it is a way. So like one of the many ways in which I will go about my day of getting this shit is I will go to McDonald's at lunchtime and grab 30 Happy Meals. And then if I can get even one Pikachu card out of that, plus sell the rest of these packs once I've got them all separated, I could probably make myself a good, decent $100 every day if I do this every day.
But you're spending $150 on Pokemon, so you're saying you would make $250 selling this stuff? You think that you could pull that off?
So if
you're buying 30, that's $150.
But if a one pack of cards, but breaking it down to the individual level, if one pack of cards sells for $6 and it's only $5 for me to buy a Happy Meal, then I've already made $1 profit with every Happy Meal that I've bought. Then on top of that, add the odds that I might actually find a card in it worth more than $1 if I actually find a foil or something to that effect, right? Like then boom, so there's this whole, so there is also the risk factor of, do I open these up and see if I've got special cards, or do I just sell the packs individually? But also resealing happens all the fucking time.
All the fucking time. That's why I stopped going. That's why I stopped buying Magic the Gathering cards straight up. There was that place. Remember the radio station where you, Will, Kevin, and I were going to do a show, but when we showed up, it was flooded out, and the owner of the station was like sleeping in his boxers on the couch. That was a weird day. Across the street from that, there was a comic book shop, and they 1,000% higher than that, Googleplex% opened up every pack of Magic the Gathering cards that they got, took out the good cards, and then resealed them. Because every time...
resealing is a huge problem in the trading card game. Yeah.
Speaking of trading cards,
to answer your question, I do believe that there are people out there that are doing this, and I think that is part of what is leading to a lot of the shit that you were reading about with some of the other controversies with this particular promotion, is that people who also just have kids that want a fucking Happy Meal are getting kind of the short end of the stick at a lot of places, because these guys are going to and buying up everything they can in the mornings at these McDonald's.
You can't buy before lunchtime. I will say that. That is the craziest thing. And I'm really happy that McDonald's does it. But, like, when I wanted to get, like, the boo buckets, right? Because I like the boo buckets. Again, I'm a big Halloween guy, even though I don't really act like it on the show. Inherently, I enjoyed Halloween as a kid, so I try to privately celebrate it still. So those boo buckets, I really wanted to get them. So I went to not really my local, but the one that I go to when I'm going to get breakfast on, like, a Monday morning. They know me there. And I'm like, hi, I'm trying to get, like, the boo buckets. Are you guys doing, like, Happy Meals this morning, or can I just buy the buckets? And they're like, we're not selling them until after 10:30 when lunch starts. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So, like, that would be one thing. If you could show up at 5 a.m. and buy out their entire stock, that would be, like, McDonald's is trying to stop that from happening.
Well, in some cases at least. But we also know that this happens because we see this happen all the time with street dates being broken by all sorts of, like, employees at, like, Walgreens and CVS's and shit, that I'm sure that there are McDonald's in this country right now, that there is somebody more than happy to sell you just the cards in the morning before anybody else can get them for the right price. If I show up as as a collector, quote unquote, and say, hey, I'll give you an extra $1 for each thing if you just let me just have just the cards and all this, I'm sure that there are boxes falling off of the back of trucks all over the place with this shit.
I'm sure that there are McDonald's within my vicinity where people got jobs in McDonald's just to steal the cards.
And I mean, not just the cards, right? Because this is also there's an entire collector's element to just Happy Meal toys too, right? That is also a world of collectors, and we know that this stuff happens with that because we hear about it when some of the bigger crossovers happen of the ways this would happen. You know, I remember there was something going on with SpongeBob toys at one point. The Nintendo toys, when those came out, there was a lot of weird instances of people of McDonald's suddenly be not having the toys to put in the Happy Meals, that it's just like, didn't you just start selling the Happy Meals at 10:30? Like, why do you not have any toys left? Oh, we're out already. I'm sure you are.
What about the Golden McNugget from the weird, I don't even know that guy's name, that is selling for $150 or best offer on eBay when I type in Kerwin Frost? Because there were 6 new McNugget toys that Kerwin Frost, like, the story was he made them up when he was a kid, but then there were also gold nuggets that were out there that could be found. I'm also going to check on Mr. Gold from Lego, because that one's always fun to look at. 3,200 is within the first 6, or best offer, and that's pre-owned.
Yeah. So, like, there are people that work in these places that are more than
brand new 6,000, brand new 11,000. Now again, somebody has to pay that for you to actually make it, but those are real things that are up on eBay right now. And I don't know if all the Mr. Golds have even been found.
Man,
because there were, like, so many, and you go listen to Two Friends and a Couch. I talked about Mr. Gold on that one. So I would like to, with this last minute, talk about what I've been doing this week, because I brought up Super Adventure Island 2 last episode right near the end. And I successfully completed Super Adventure Island 2, and I'm not flexing when I say this, but I did not use the casino system. So, like, the fact that I hear these people talk about the casino system is such a big part of it, like, you get the sword that you need to beat the final boss in the same level where the final boss is. That's how it's constructed. And that sword is stronger than the sword or boomerang that you get in the casino, right? It is the most powerful of them all is what it is called. The power sword.
Okay.
So I don't know about that. I will say that, like, the 4th and level shield and armor are only available from the casino. It stops at the aqua armor and the aqua shield. But, like, you know, you play the game and there's healing and all sorts of other stuff. So I don't know about that. And I'm not judging there. I understand why as a kid, back when I was playing with the Discovery Network commercial of the atmosphere in the background, why like the casino was not something I ever thought of. I saw a casino and I'm like, I don't want to fucking gamble. I want to play the game. So like I completely understand why my experience, what my experience is. But I'm also a randomizer guy. This is where Hab Guy comes in. We're pulling the pin on Hab Guy. Hab Guy, while I was doing Super Adventure Island last week, sent me an entrance randomizer of Link to the Past. That he's like, I'm doing this. I'm just curious if you want to try it. So I did it. I beat it. It was a good time. But then I got randomizer mind. And I decided to look into if Super Adventure Island 2 has a randomizer. And I think you know what the answer is, considering we're doing a whole segment right now on this show.
Yeah, I put two and two together.
Yeah, right? And that was more for the audience. But yes, I'm glad that you also spackled over the holes, Siegen. I'm a big fan. So it is able to do like 4 basic types of randomizers. Open, which means that the entire map from the beginning of the game is open to you. Open balanced, where you start with an extra like bit of health, so that like if your first thing you have to do is say the 5th island, you have a better chance of surviving while you have no items. Random, which will open up certain portions of the map, randomly decided. So, like, one of the main focuses of Super Adventure Island is to beat the bosses, and then as a reward for each boss, you receive a stone, and those stones drop gates that block you from going further into the world. So, like, you beat the tree boss, you get the light stone that drops the light gate, which gives you access to the volcano island and the ice island. And it's an interesting like thing, right? Like, it's how it does it. So random, those gates are randomly opened up, and then there's also random balanced. So I decided I'm going to generate one of each style of these games, and I'm going to play through them. And then I let Dayle choose which of these I should do. And she said, do the random balance. That seems like probably like the best starter game to do. And it makes sense, right? Because like you don't have every check open to you from the beginning, and you have a little bit of extra health to like keep the game going. So that's what I do. And it was fine until the only thing I had left to do was beat the boss of the 5th island. The boss of the 5th island is a mummy. And he's also one of those bosses. I don't know if there's a term for this. If there's not, we should devise one. He's one of those hand bosses, where you have to defeat the hands in order to defeat the boss. With the added wrinkle of once you defeat the hands...
Brian David Gilbert did an entire episode of Unraveled, I believe, about hand-eye bosses that I think covers pretty well.
Okay, yeah. So, like, those hand bosses. But then the boss of the 5th island, you beat its hands, and then you have to beat its torso, and then you have to destroy its head. And one of the intricacies of that level, right? Like, another thing of a Super Adventure Island is you'll find like a door, you go into it, and in the door is a big stone like tablet that gives you a hint about the level. And the hint in the 5th level is the mummy boss needs to be defeated with the legendary axe. So like you're supposed to find in the pyramid the axe weapon, and it makes the fight a little bit easier. I haven't gone back and seen how many hits it takes to defeat the mummy with the legendary axe, but I do now know how many hits it takes to defeat the mummy with the silver sword, which is the first weapon you receive in the game. I'm not sure if I had used my fists, if it would have made things better. But Siegen, how about you venture a guess as to how many hits it takes? I made Siegen guess so much this episode.
I mean, so we're talking it's a 5th level boss. You're using a 1st level weapon. I would imagine somewhere in the 24 times.
Oh, Siegen. You're close. 24 is a pretty solid guess. It takes 96 hits. So 3 24s? Give or take?
Holy hell.
It's just a holy hell. That's the reaction, right? You remember how I mentioned that you got to kill 2 hands and then a torso and then a head?
Oh, yeah.
It's 96 hits for each hand. It is 96 hits for the torso. And then I didn't bother counting, but I have to imagine it's 96 hits for the head. Meaning that to beat this boss with the first level sword, I had to hit it 384 times. I suddenly understand what get good means. But then, right? Because, I don't know, I guess because God likes to laugh at people, right? Assuming God exists, right? As an agnostic, we can never truly know. I lost my freaking save file. I defeated the mummy. I then went and beat another boss. And then I all right, it's lunchtime. I'm going to shut off the system. I had saved. And then when I went back after lunch to play the game, all the save files for Super Adventure Island 2 random balanced were gone. So most people would have quit. Most people would have said, that's it, I'm done. But
I'm pointing out the irony right now of random balanced my ass.
Yeah, right? Well, I had health, right? If I had to fight him with, I could only take one hit before dying, then that's not balanced. I was able to find before the fight.
Did you have 400 hit points?
No, I did not have 400 hit points. No, I did not have 400 hit points. I had 4 hearts, and then also the damage seems to be randomly calculated, and also these people it was the Super Nintendo, the SNES podcast that brought me back to Super Adventure Island. They talked about how bad the casino system is. I would like to talk about how bad the hit detection system is in the game, because there were times where I would jump up nowhere near the mummy and just randomly take damage. And I'm like, oh, that's fun. I don't know what did it. I'd be nowhere near it. We
do have to remember that you are playing an unauthorized version of the game, right?
That's true. It is a randomized version of the game.
Is this something that happened to you when you were playing the actual version of the game too, or is this?
Yeah, no. The actual version of the game is the same thing, where occasionally there's hitbox remnants in places. And it's just a little strange, and it happens in more than just that boss. It's not just the mummy boss. The final boss, which come to find out is basically just the mummy again, which is kind of fun but also kind of annoying, where then I get to the final boss and I'm like, oh, now I just need to beat the mummy again. But I did it first try because I had the power sword. And a little bit better armor. And actually we'll get back to it. But yeah, so then I'm like, I'm going to do this again. So I beat that stupid mummy fight, 384 hits twice. And then once I beat the mummy and I'm finishing the game now, in case I was nervous that one of the things is that by beating the game out of order, that's what messed up the save file. I did a bunch of tests and proved it. It's because of how I shut off the system. It had not written to the VRAM properly or anything like that. So it was all on me that I lost my progress. I will admit that. But 384 hits. I had read people man, I got to go back to this game and do a fist only run. I don't recommend it, man. Because the fucking bosses take so much damage. With the silver sword, I fought the 4th level boss. And the 4th level boss is a giant squid. And the whole thing is that you have to hit its tentacles in order to open up where its weak point is for the fight. Okay. And once you've done enough damage to it, it launches ink out that makes the water darker. And the fight usually is about a 3 cycle fight. Right? You'll do enough damage, he'll put some the water's darker, and the whole time he's trying to hit you with his tentacles between times where you can damage him. So you'd think the water getting darker, you wouldn't be able to see the tentacles. But it took me 10 cycles to beat him with the silver sword, which again is not 384 hits. That's insane. They're not kidding. You need that legendary axe because that makes the fight fly by. But yeah, so it does not get any darker than the 3rd level of darkness, which you could clearly see the tentacles still. Good. So it was really fun seeing how the game, they kind of built it in a way for that. So it was fun. And once I beat that mummy fight, I had the elven flute, which was able to bring me the wand, which allows you to just warp to all the places. The game really opened itself up to me once I beat that 384 hit fight. And there was a time, I'm not going to lie, my intention before I defeated the randomizer was I'm never playing this fucking randomizer again. But now that I've freaking successfully defeated this incredibly difficult thing twice. I might do another one.
You're feeling the power.
I feel invincible. I feel fucking invincible, Sejin. Because that's
Fantastic.
what happens. But right now, Hab Guy had sent me another entrance randomizer, so I am in the middle of doing that. That's sort of like my reward for an incredible, crazy randomizer. I don't love entrance randomizers on Link to the Past, though, but it's fun, like, to flex my muscles and do it. But it's just part of the thing that I like about Link to the Past randomizer, like the original one, is that, like, I know this world, so it's like using that knowledge.
But, it gets a little bit too into the roguelites, which is not your bag necessarily. So I
unless it's the Ninja Turtles, but I got a little bit of that virus, that Ninja Turtle virus.
All right, well we gotta get out of here so you can treat your virus. Take your meds.
Yes. So I guess the last big thing is we are not going to be here. It's going to be a time capsule episode next week. So I talked about my desk problems. Since we're not recording next Sunday at our normal recording time, I will have my desk done during those 2-ish hours I carved out for myself. So if in the episode that releases on February 10th, I'm not at a new desk, everybody gets to mock me. So look forward to that. That's fun, right? Mocking Devon Decker. Who knows? Anything that you want to make sure that people know about Sejin?
No, we will we'll see y'all just in time for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it'll be good. Yeah, we'll have a good one on the 10th. All right, cool. So thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Say Report. If you want to keep the conversation going, you can join our Discord. Invitations are available wherever we're available on social media, which as of this recording is Facebook and X, formerly Twitter. Just go right in the profile. There's an invitation to join the Discord. Or if you want to be old school, send an email to thesayreport@gmail.com and we will facilitate you with an invitation. Or we can just correspond like it's old days and you can send us emails and we'll respond to those emails. The only thing to remember is if you want it for My Eyes Only Devon Decker or His Eyes Only Sejin Sarowick, put our name in the subject line and we will make sure that it is distributed appropriately. With all of that said, thank you so much again, and William, please bring us home.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejin Sarowick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.